let's talk about pancakes. Welcome back to Sprung On Food. I'm your host, Kae Sprung. This season, we're talking about favorite foods, the history behind it, and the role it plays in the world today. Joining me today is the founder of the Pancake Princess, Erika Kwee. Erika, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I mean, I really should be saying welcome back because I think you are, maybe the first official repeat second time guest. I mean, this is a different topic, different season, but you are returning nonetheless. So welcome back, Erika.
Wow, I'm honored.
I'm honored. I mean, there's not one person that I could think of that would be more perfect to have on to talk about pancakes. It's literally in your name. So I mean, of course, I would love for you to share why this is your favorite food, your relationship with it. Tell me all the things.
So I would actually say that possibly cake is my favorite food, but pancakes are the more socially acceptable thing to eat more often.
Okay.
And I think a large part of pancakes specifically is the nostalgia of it all. My dad would always make like either pancakes from a mix, usually crusties, or crepes growing up. And so, like every Sunday, it would usually be some iteration of those. And I'm pretty sure we grew up on like real maple syrup from Costco. So I think I'm like a big syrup person and I just like love dousing a pancake in syrup. And as an adult, I would say I really appreciate how much textural difference you can have in a pancake. Like people love waffles for the crispy edges, but I think pancakes can be just as crispy. You have like that cakey middle. You can have them thin or thick and like so many toppings. I think they're just like a great springboard for whatever toppings you want to put on them. So yeah, very versatile.
Yeah, and when it does come to those toppings, I mean, universally people can do whatever they want, but for you personally, do you like to switch it up with different toppings, or do you find that you're still loyal to the maple syrup situation, or what how does it work for you?
Hmm. At home, I'm usually too lazy to like make something fun. So it's usually just syrup and maybe a fruit or like a nut butter. I love peanut butter on pancakes. But if I'm
Oh.
going out, I love, whatever creations the chef is going to put on the pancakes. Like I'll try anything.
Yeah, whatever they suggest. Have you ever experienced or had something on them, in them, within them that you were like, no?
Hmm. I don't think so. I also don't think I've had anything super out of the box. Like usually it's some variation of like fruit or a compote or whipped cream or yeah. So nothing weird, but also nothing crazy, I think.
I'm trying to think in my mind's eye, what would be like the most interesting or adventurous topping. Is there anything that sticks out in your mind that you're like, this would absolutely be too much? I don't like seafood on top. I don't know, but maybe that could be good. I really don't know. Or do you think that like pancakes are just the perfect vehicle to really make anything work?
I mean, yeah, if we're counting like blini as pancakes and you put caviar on that, I think seafood could work as an interesting topping to a savory pancake. So, I mean, I don't love squid. I think if you put like squid or octopus in a
Okay.
that would be a bit much. But other than that, I feel like almost anything could work.
Yeah. Okay. So with the exception of squid, see a squid, get out of our pancakes. Yeah, anything could work. And the interesting thing is when initially it was decided, like, yes, obviously pancakes, we're going to be talking about that. I knew between the two of us what that meant, what version of pancakes we were talking about. So just for context sake, we're gonna stick into that lane. But really, I mean, this episode, and that's why I also was not going to do this to you or potentially the listeners, because this episode could be a few hours long if we really started to deviate into all of the different variations of pancakes, and especially internationally in different cuisines, what pancakes are and how many versions there are there. So this is really, as a kind of umbrella, like a huge topic. But I just wanted to say that because I don't want it to appear that we're glossing over anything or skipping on anything, because we're not, because we're focusing on specifically this style of kind of like that American fluffy pancake. But there are so many other types of pancakes out there that, yes, that and that those could very well be somebody else's favorite food individually. So all that to say, we could talk for days and days about all of the different histories of all of the different types from all of the different countries and regions, but we're just going to hone in on this one. And with all that said, of course, to better understand and appreciate our food, we have to know where it came from. If I were to ask, what's the oldest prepared food in human history? Bread might be a common guess, maybe soup. Some people might say roasted meat. But if we're talking about foods that resemble a recipe, a deliberate combination of ground grains, liquid, and heat, one of the strongest contenders might actually be pancakes. Yeah, pancakes. A short stack sitting under a puddle of maple syrup might have deeper historical roots than almost any other breakfast food on earth. And the reason is surprisingly simple. Pancakes require almost no technology. You don't need an oven, you don't need complicated tools, and all you really need is some sort of ground grain, a liquid to turn it into batter, and a hot surface. That surface could be a bronze pan, a clay griddle, or thousands of years ago, a heated stone near a fire. Which means pancakes didn't emerge in just one place. They emerged everywhere throughout human history across different continents. And today we're going to follow that story, starting before written history and ending somewhere between a box mix in your pantry and a diner counter. We need to go back long before cookbooks, restaurants, or brunch. It begins with early agriculture. Around 10,000 years ago, humans in parts of the Middle East began domesticating grains like wheat and barley. Grinding stones appear in archaeological sites from the Neolithic period, showing that people were already processing grains into flour-like meals. Once you have ground up grain, the next logical step is cooking it. One of the most fascinating pieces of evidence comes from a famous archaeological discovery, Ötzi the Iceman, the naturally preserved mummy found in the Alps in 1991. Ötzi lived around 3,300 BCE during the Copper Age. When scientists analyzed the contents in his stomach, they found evidence that he had eaten ground einkorn wheat and charcoal particles, suggesting that some form of grain preparation had been cooked over fire shortly before his death. Now, we can't say definitively that Ötzi sat down and enjoyed a stack of pancakes before his unfortunate alpine misadventure, but archaeologists do believe that prehistoric communities likely cooked simple grain batters on hot stones, producing foods similar to flatbreads or griddle cakes. In other words, pancake-like foods may be among the earliest cooked grain dishes humans ever made. Erika, our pancakes that are friend from over 5,000 years ago, I'm sure they're very different from today's. And while we can imagine and even recreate what those would have been like and maybe tasted like, what do you think that somebody like Ötzi from back then would think about our pancakes today?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think they would be like, wow, there's so much fat and sugar and like modern salt resources in them. I have to guess that the pancakes today are much tastier than whatever einkorn version they might have been eating back then.
Yeah, I mean, to us, yes. But I guess, like, also back then, if you had nothing else to compare them to, maybe that was like the most delicious thing. And this would be like, I don't know. Yeah, I try to wrap my mind around it like overload, but how could they not think it was delicious, right? Like, I mean, pancakes are so good, even if you weren't used to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, our taste buds have evolved, right, to crave things that like evolutionarily we needed. So I feel like even if they ate a pancake and they were like, whoa, this is so sweet and like so fatty, I feel like the adoption period would be pretty short. And then they'd be like, yeah, like this is great.
Yeah. What do you think? Like a day, 2 days, a week?
Less than a week, I would guess.
Less
I
than a
don't
week.
know.
Perfect. I mean, no, I fully agree. Yeah, I think once you have them, yeah, I'm not comparing pancakes to drugs, but I feel like if you would have, you'd be like, ooh, that was really good. I feel like I need that again
Hmm.
pretty soon because that was so delicious.
Yeah.
Well, the first clear written evidence of pancakes comes from ancient Greece around the 5th century BCE. Greek writers mention a food called tēganitēs. The name comes from the word tēganon, meaning frying pan. These pancakes appear in the works of comic poets like Cratinus and Magnus, who describe them being cooked in pans and served as morning meals. One source even poetically describes them as hot and dripping with morning dew, which I have to say is a very dramatic way of saying breakfast with honey. The ingredients were fairly simple: wheat flour, olive oil, honey, sometimes curdled milk. The pancakes were fried in olive oil and often served with honey or sesame seeds. So ancient Greek pancakes were probably closer to rustic fried flatbreads than fluffy diner style today. But the idea is unmistakable: a batter cooked in a pan for breakfast with sweet toppings. That concept hasn't changed. As Greek culture spread throughout the Mediterranean and eventually through the Roman Empire, so did pancake traditions. Romans made a dish described in a cookbook that has been referenced in a number of other Sprung on Food episodes, Apicius, called Alita Dolcia. That was compiled sometime between the 4th and 5th century CE. The name translates roughly to another sweet dish. These pancakes were made from flour, eggs, and milk, fried in oil, and often served with honey and pepper. Pepper, fun, right? The Romans loved combining sweet and spicy flavors, thanks in part to trade networks that brought spices from India and beyond. So, Roman pancake might have been sweet, aromatic, and a little spicy. Roman cuisine also spread pancake traditions throughout Europe. Even the word used in parts of Central and Eastern Europe today, palachinka, likely derives from the Latin placenta, which came from the Greek word plakos, meaning a flat cake. And guess what? Yes, that word placenta originally meant cake. Thank goodness that language evolves. Otherwise, I'm not sure we could look at pancakes the same way. By the Middle Ages, pancakes had become deeply embedded in European food traditions. And one of the most famous pancake days emerged because of religion. In Christian tradition, the day before the beginning of Lent, the 40-day fasting period leading up to Easter, is known as Shrove Tuesday. Historically, Lent involves giving up rich foods like butter, eggs, milk, and sugar. So households needed to use up those ingredients before the fasting period began. And the obvious solution? Make pancakes, duh. That's why, depending on where you are, Shrove Tuesday is often called Pancake Day. The tradition is so strong that it even spawned one of the most unusual sports in human history, the pancake race. According to local legend, the first pancake race took place in Olney, England in 1445, when a truly God-fearing woman heard the church bells calling her to confession and ran to church while still holding her frying pan, pancake, and all. Today, competitors run through the streets flipping pancakes in frying pans as they go. Why this hasn't become an Olympic sport yet, I can't understand. Erica, have you ever heard of these pancake races?
I have never, but now I have a strong desire to go see these.
Well, I'll do you one better because I know that last time that we spoke in this conversation, we came up with some really great ideas. I have a proposal for another idea. What do you think about organizing a local pancake race?
Oh my
And
gosh.
I mean, could that be something in your future wheelhouse?
Honestly, I could see it for us. That's so funny. That would be, I feel like it would fit right in into New York.
Right? Today, everybody dresses up in a particular way. They wear like these aprons, these traditional kind of plaid looking aprons, a little chef's hat. And so like that's part of like the uniform and the tradition while they're carrying the thing. So it like I think that the options and ideas are boundless of what we could really do with this New York City version. Does anything automatically, I know I only just proposed this idea, but does anything strike you as like, ooh, this would be a fun element to add to it, or the event would have to have XYZ within it? Do you have any visions for this New York City pancake race?
I think it would be really funny if we had some of like the top pancake restaurants like Clinton Street, Chez Matin, Cafe Le Luc, and had their chefs. I mean, I'm sure it would have to take a special chef to want to participate in this, but how well can you make a pancake versus also run and compete in this like athletic event?
Ooh, I love this so much. So there would almost be multi levels or components to it. So there could be like categories rather. That's the word I'm looking for. So it could be like, fastest, like obviously the fastest person, whatever. But then there could be, like best pancake
Mhm.
or I don't know, different categories within it. Well, I think that they should participate. One, because it's an honor to be invited to such an auspicious occasion. But two, I think that what would be cool is if it was, for a charity or something like that. So they would be doing it in the good spirit of raising money. So even if they're not fast, you
Mhm.
show face and you're like, we're doing it for a good cause. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if I'm because at the end of the day, if you're not the fastest one, you could still be in the running for the
Totally.
tastiest
Yeah.
pancake. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, everybody stay tuned. No pressure, Erica. But by the 17th and 18th centuries, English kitchens were full of recipes for foods called pancakes, flapjacks, or griddle cakes. But the final result wasn't quite the same as what you'd find in a diner today. These pancakes were generally thinner, more delicate, somewhere between a modern crepe and a small griddle cake. They didn't have the airy lift of today's American pancakes because the chemistry that creates that fluffiness hadn't been widely adopted yet. One of the clearest examples appears in the cookbook The Art of Cookery Made Plain and Easy, published in 1747 by the British writer Hannah Glass, whose book also made cameos in many of these Sprung on Food episodes. This was one of the most influential cookbooks in the English-speaking world during the 18th century. It was widely read not just in Britain, but also in the American colonies. Her pancake recipe included flour, eggs, cream, and butter cooked in a pan, recognizably a pancake, but still closer to a thin European style. European settlers brought their pancake traditions with them when they crossed the Atlantic. British colonists made griddle cakes. Dutch settlers made pannekuchen. French colonists made crepes. German immigrants made pfannkuchen. Over time, these traditions blended into something new, the American pancake. But once those traditions landed in North America, something interesting began to happen to these pancakes: chemistry. The defining characteristic of the modern pancake is its fluffiness. That lift, the soft interior and airy crumb, doesn't happen by accident. It happens because of leavening, the process that creates gas bubbles in batter and makes it expand as it cooks. For centuries, cooks relied on yeast or fermentation to create that effect. Some pancake batters were left out to sit, so natural fermentation could create air pockets. But fermentation takes time, and early American cooks were about to discover a faster solution. In the late 1700s, American kitchens began using a substance called pearl ash. Erica, do you have any idea what pearl ash is?
I mean, ash makes me think of something like charcoaly from the fire, but I really have no idea.
Yeah, well, you are absolutely more than halfway there. Yeah. Pearl ash was a purified form of potassium carbonate derived from wood ash, literal ash. When mixed with acidic ingredients in batter, it produced carbon dioxide gas, creating bubbles and lightning baked goods. It was one of the earliest forms of chemical leavening used in cooking. One of the first American cookbooks to document its use was American Cookery, published in 1796 by Amelia Simmons. This book is widely considered the first known cookbook written by an American author for an American audience. Amelia included recipes for griddle cakes and johnny cakes that used pearl ash as a leavening agent. And a quick sidebar, johnny cakes, also known as hoe cakes, are super similar to pancakes, but made with cornmeal instead. This seemingly small pearl ash detail represents a critical moment. Because once cooks could produce lift instantly without yeast or fermentation, they could create thicker, softer pancakes cooked quickly on a griddle. But pearl ash was just the beginning. By the early mid-19th century, another chemical leavener was becoming common in American kitchens, saleratus, which we now know as baking soda. Baking soda worked even more efficiently when combined with acidic ingredients like sour milk or buttermilk. This combination produced stronger bubbling and more consistent results. Recipes using saleratus began appearing in American cookbooks like Directions for Cookery by Eliza Leslie, first published in 1837. Eliza's cookbook was hugely influential in the 19th century American households. Her recipes included raised pancakes and soda pancakes, which clearly resembled the early form of the modern fluffy variety. And cooks were starting to notice something important. If you paired baking soda with buttermilk, the acid in the dairy triggered a stronger chemical reaction. More bubbles, more lift, more fluff. That combination, buttermilk plus baking soda or baking powder, is still one of the defining formulas of classic American pancakes today. The final major step in pancake evolution came in the mid-19th century with the invention of commercial baking powder. Unlike baking soda, which requires an acidic ingredient to activate, baking powder contains both acid and base. Add moisture and heat, and the chemical reaction begins automatically. One of the key figures behind early commercial baking powder was the American chemist Eben Norton Horsford. In the 1850s, he developed Rumford baking powder, one of the first successful commercial versions sold to consumers. Baking powder simplified cooking dramatically. Instead of worrying about balancing acids and bases, home cooks could simply add a measured amount to their batter and expect consistent results. By the late 1800s, the basic formula of the modern American pancake was essentially established: flour, eggs, milk or buttermilk, and baking powder. Erika, doing as much baking as you do, I think it's safe to say that we are both grateful for these inventions. What has been one of the most interesting things you've experienced or learned when it came to the chemistry of baking?
Wow, that's a good question. I guess not like so mind-blowing, but like pretty basic. Like there is, I can't remember exactly, like a certain measurement that you put of like baking powder, baking soda per cup of flour that is generally ideal to have a cake or a cookie or a pancake rise. But if you put too much, it can actually cause the, like, let's just say cake, for example, the cake to expand too quickly and then it'll collapse. So I found this
Mm.
actually with one of the winners for, or the winner for my yellow cake bake off. And it is so tender, like the best yellow cake. But a lot of the comments were mentioning that the cake was collapsing. And
Huh.
when I looked at the recipe, I think it was like 1 tablespoon of baking powder to 2 cups of flour, which
Oh,
I
why?
think it should be max like 1 teaspoon of baking powder per cup of
Yeah.
flour. So if you just reduced it to 2 teaspoons of baking powder instead of 1 tablespoon, you should have no problem. Like I've made it multiple times with no falling. So it's really helpful for consistent lift and everything, but it can also cause, you know, falling as well.
Ooh, and was that like an not grammatical, but whatever, the words are escaping me right now, but was that like a written error within the recipe and that's why people were getting it messed up or what was
I think it's one of those things where, like, if you're just measuring a little inaccurately or like
mm,
certain factors in your kitchen, like everyone's oven temperatures are a little different. Like, I think it could work for you without falling, but
mm,
for the majority of people, like, I don't think she wrote it. I don't think it was a mistake. I think it like genuinely worked for her,
ah,
the blogger. But I think for most people, it just was not the winning formula to like keep the cake even.
yeah, so it was like concave, right? It was
Yeah,
right? Is
and
that
not
yeah,
like
yeah.
super concave, but just like it would like have a divot in the middle, which like is not ideal.
So, yep, anybody who ever comes onto this show and we talk about cooking versus baking, I always say that, cooking, you can be more whimsical and really, change things as you go, but baking is so much more of a science and you kind of have one opportunity to do it and hope for the best. And
Yeah.
then after it's baked, it's done. There's not much more you can do. Now, while chemistry helped create the modern pancake, industry helped spread it everywhere. In 1889, the Pearl Milling Company introduced one of the earliest commercial pancake mixes in the United States, Aunt Jemima pancake flour. The product gained national attention during the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, aka the Chicago's World Fair, where visitors were served pancakes made from the mix. One of the people who helped popularize the product was Nancy Green. Nancy was an American former slave who portrayed the Aunt Jemima character at the expo, cooking pancakes for crowds, telling stories to promote the brand, and was the first African American model hired to promote a corporate trademark. The marketing campaign was extremely successful, and the pancake mix became one of the first widely recognized convenience food in the United States. For the first time, making pancakes didn't even require measuring flour or baking powder, just add water. Suddenly, pancakes were a national product. In 1926, the brand was acquired by the Quaker Oats Company, which dramatically expanded its distribution. Under Quaker Oats, Aunt Jemima became a household name. Advertising campaigns appeared in newspapers, radio programs, and eventually television. The company also expanded the product line. Now, jumping ahead, if you're thinking, I haven't seen that brand recently. Well, in 2021, it was announced by PepsiCo and its subsidiary, Quaker Oats, that Aunt Jemima pancake mix and syrup brand would be renamed Pearl Milling Company, going back to the original company name. The decision followed years of criticism that the Aunt Jemima name and imagery were rooted in racist stereotypes. Products began appearing under the new branding in June 2021 while keeping similar packaging and recipes. In the 20th century, there was the rise of American diners. Commercial kitchens began installing large flat-top griddles that could cook dozens of pancakes at once. Short-order cooks perfected the rhythm of the pancake station. Breakfast menus expanded, and pancakes became one of the signature dishes of the American diner culture. Then, in 1958, the restaurant chain International House of Pancakes, aka IHOP, opened its first location in Toluca Lake, California. IHOP built an entire restaurant concept around pancakes, not just pancakes for breakfast, but pancakes at any hour of the day. By the 1960s and 70s, IHOP began expanding rapidly across the United States. Other chains followed similar models, including regional pancake houses and family breakfast restaurants. Together, they helped cement pancakes as a mainstream restaurant staple. By the 1970s, IHOP had hundreds of locations across the United States, and today there are around 1,700 restaurants globally. Erika, I never like to assume, but have you been to an IHOP?
I have.
And do you have any opinions on their pancakes?
Oh my God, it has been years, but my memory is not fond. I would say I
Mm,
would not voluntarily go back to an IHOP to eat their pancakes,
yeah.
but that's just me. I'm sure plenty of people enjoy them, clearly.
Yeah, I think probably they offer consistency. And if that has been somebody's kind of introduction or staple into pancakes, then that's probably what they go for. I think you've had the great privilege of not only being just in a city with loads and loads of different cuisines and tons of restaurants, but lots and lots of different pancakes. I know that at the top you had mentioned a few. Are there some other pancake places that, no shade to IHOP, but are there some other pancake places that deserve a proper shout out, either here in New York or anywhere else that you've traveled?
Ooh, I actually, not that many people are probably going to be going there, but in Sydney, there's a cafe, I think it's Lumiere Cafe, and they do baked pancakes. I was asking the owner how they make them, and they put three little blobs of pancake batter in like a really hot cast iron pan, and they like bake them in ghee for 20 minutes. He was like, we flip them halfway. So they come out looking like these little like golden pucks. I don't,
Oh.
I've tried actually making them, and like mine still look like pancakes, but theirs just look like these little cakes, and they're so crusty on the outside. It's almost like a cross between a pancake and a donut because that crust is just like
Oh.
so, but it's like more crusty than a donut. But anyway, they were so good. Like one of the best pancakes I've had recently.
And did and if this is proprietary information, we will respect that. But did the owner explain how they came up with this like way, this process of making them that way? Because that's so unique to me.
I think he might have inherited it from the previous owner. He was like, we've been making
Ah.
this recipe for like years and years. Like people will move away and come back just for the pancakes. Yeah, he couldn't share the recipe with me, but he was happy to
Mm.
share the method.
Lumiere Cafe. Okay, shout out Sydney. Dang, that's really cool. Over the following decades, pancakes continued to evolve with changing tastes, new flavors, international influences, and the rise of brunch culture all reshaped how Americans encountered them. But despite these shifts, the basic formula remained incredibly consistent. So if you're looking for the person who invented the modern American pancake, you won't find a single name. Instead, you'll find a chain of influences stretching across centuries. British cooks flipping griddle cakes in the 1700s, American cookbook writers experimenting with pearl ash, chemists developing baking powder, entrepreneurs selling pancake mix, and diner cooks perfecting the stack. The pancake we recognize today is the product of migration, science, and breakfast culture, a food that connects prehistoric farmers, ancient Greek poets, medieval monks, and modern diners. And honestly, that's a pretty impressive resume. Erika, what do you think about the backstory of pancakes?
That was so interesting to learn. I really had no idea. I've never delved into the history of pancakes, but I loved learning about the evolution and especially the leavening. Like I never really thought about how that came to be, but that is such a key part of pancakes and interesting to hear how it evolved over time.
Yeah, the pearl ash was definitely a new thing for me. I had not heard of it, and if I did at one point, it completely was like wiped from my memory. And so even yeah, just to echo your sentiment, like the evolution of just the leavening ingredients that we rely heavily on for pancakes, at least the version that we've been accustomed to and that we think of today, it is so fascinating because we can look at other, earlier we mentioned the fermentation was more of a common way back before we had these leavening agents, and then my mind goes to like injera and things like that where you can literally see like all of the little bubbles, but it is such a it's very different from the type of pancakes that we're talking about. But yeah, it's much thinner. So in my mind's eye, I kind of went back to that and I was like, oh, that might have very much been, the texture similar. I'm like, whoa.
Hmm.
Thank you, baking powder. Thank you,
Yeah.
baking soda. Like that is amazing. Well, with a food this popular, it's too long to list all the ways it's shown up in pop culture. But to name some, pancakes make cameos in film and TV, like the movie Matilda from 1996, famous for the scene where Matilda makes perfectly formed pancakes while the song Send Me On My Way plays. The movie Rain Man from 1988 highlights a strict routine where Dustin Hoffman's character eats pancakes every Tuesday. The movie Uncle Buck from 1989 is known for the comically massive pancakes cooked by John Candy's character. In the movie Groundhog Day from 1993, Bill Murray's character indulges in stacks of pancakes with reckless abandon when his day just keeps on starting over and over. And pancakes appear in countless scenes in the TV show The Simpsons. Homer Simpson repeatedly is shown eating pancakes for breakfast right alongside all of those pink donuts. One of the most famous pancake records comes from Manchester, England. According to Guinness World Records, the largest pancake ever made was cooked on August 13th, 1994. Erika, would you like to venture a guess of what the diameter and or the weight was?
Oh my God. 100 feet? I feel like that's too small. I don't know.
A hundred,
Weight?
100 feet, not too small. I actually very much appreciate your enthusiasm. It was 15 meters or 49 feet.
Okay.
So Yeah, but then, thinking about that 49 feet for a pancake,
That is
that's
crazy.
nothing to sneeze at. Yeah, and it weighed 3 metric tons or over 6,600 pounds.
Oh, I was about to guess like 300 pounds.
Okay. Yeah, I know. It seems, I don't know if it seems disproportionate or just maybe my mind just can't
I
really
can't
wrap
even. Yeah.
around like what that even like visually looks like. But that's a heavy ass pancake. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there's the song Banana Pancakes by Jack Johnson from 2005. Make you banana pancakes, pretend like it's the weekend now. Across the United States and Canada, pancake breakfasts are a long-standing civic tradition. One of the most famous examples is the Calgary Stampede Pancake Breakfast, where thousands of pancakes are served for free during the annual festival in Alberta, Canada. Some events serve tens of thousands of pancakes in a single day. In the early 2010s, we saw pancake designs made by carefully pouring batter to create images known as pancake art. One artist widely associated with the movement is Nathan Shields, who gained attention online for creating elaborate pancake portraits and characters, helping popularize pancake art on YouTube and social media. Ryan Lewin, also known as Flippin' Art Dude, and Daniel Drake, known as Dan Cakes, are also popular creators in the space. One of the biggest modern pancake moments happened on social media during COVID, when in May 2020, a TikTok trend called pancake cereal went viral. The idea was simple: make dozens of tiny pancakes, serve them in a bowl, and eat them with syrup or milk like cereal. And if you're looking for a pancake recipe to try, in February 2025, Food and Wine featured The Rock's pancakes. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is apparently famous for his indulgent pancakes, often featuring banana and coconut. Erica, are there any other pop culture moments that you can think of where pancakes made a mark, or any final words that you have about your favorite food?
Hmm. I guess if people are looking for a good recipe, I would also recommend Golden Diner published their recipe on the New York Times. So I think it's amazing that we can just like make Chez Maton or Golden Diner's pancakes at home. Golden Diner did not make my top three, but they are
Oh,
delicious. And I think the recipe on the New York Times is very true to the one served at the restaurant, like complete with the honey butter syrup. So I would encourage people to go make that recipe. I mean, I have my own personal favorite that doesn't call for buttermilk. It just uses milk, or I like a heavy cream, half water mixture because I think it
mm.
like is a little more rich. And that's on my website. But yeah, I don't know. I love pancakes. I hope everyone gets to go eat some after this.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe if somebody's planning ahead, they've already got theirs ready to go right before sitting down to this episode. And I like too that you can confirm some of these recipes that you would recommend people to make are true to the original version, because I think that sometimes people get bamboozled. I mean, at least like I have, where I'm like, this can't possibly be right. What are you giving the people? This is like
Mhm.
not accurate. So knowing that if you cannot make it to some of these places in New York City, you can absolutely make a little moment of it and make them at home, or listen to this episode, and then you can have them afterwards for a full circle moment. Erica, thank you so much for joining me to share your love of pancakes and help me to tell its story.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thanks for watching. You can find links and more info in the description below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. See you next time.